Tuesday evening edition of Weather Unfiltered. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson here with our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. We've got a lot going on from one side of the country to another, both tropical and non-tropical threats.
And what does all of this have in common? Water is going to be the biggest problem, as it often is with tropical or non-tropical low-pressure systems.
Yeah, believe it or not, those of you that live in the Southwest, California, Arizona, Nevada, you could get clobbered with some really heavy rain. And then on the East Coast, we've got all kinds of issues there with rain and maybe some storm surge.
Yeah, here we go again with the likelihood of some significant impacts on the East Coast without a landfalling tropical system.
Yeah, this could just be a strong low pressure system bringing that strong onshore flow, a potential nor'easter. And then, of course, we've got Jerry out in the Atlantic. We'll take a look at that as well.
Yeah, and there are land areas in play, northeastern Caribbean, Bermuda again.
It's been the theme of the season, right? Well, that potential nor'easter means an consistent and strong onshore flow. So we got to think about the coastal flooding concerns and concerns in the water. Coastal flooding defined as a temporary inundation of seawater over normally dry land. So a lot of times we look at videos of these, neighborhoods close to the beach where we see water overtaking, the areas on stilts where you park the cars, some of the local roadways underwater. This can result from tides. It can result from onshore winds, storm surge, or a combination of more than one of those. In this case, we've, of course, got the tide issues along with the onshore winds, which could lead to higher coastal flooding concerns. And the frequency of events is increasing due to climate change. So something that we've been following a lot more of late, and people in coastal communities have been noting, saying we've seen the changes, right? And we also, have seen all these homes falling into the ocean here in eastern North Carolina. So unfortunately, our beaches are being, eaten away. Here's a look at the coastal flood advisories that are currently in effect, all the way from the Florida Keys up to about Jacksonville, and then we've also got areas into South Carolina, from the Low Country up towards Georgetown, even towards Myrtle Beach, portions of the Outer Banks also under those coastal flood advisories. Now, wind speeds right now, we've got gusts of 18 miles an hour in Daytona Beach. It's the 22-mile-an-hour gust in Tampa. Melbourne, you've got a persistent wind of 14 miles an hour, 9-mile-an-hour winds in Jacksonville. As Dr. Knabb showed us, though, those winds will pick up as we go through the week. So note by Wednesday, but especially Thursday, we'll start to see some of those gusts in the Outer Banks, South Carolina, 25 to 30 miles an hour. Hatteras could be gusting 40, even 50 miles an hour, especially as we get into Friday. Now, by Friday morning, up and down the East Coast, we've got those strong gusts, anywhere from 20 to 30 miles an hour for most, 30-plus mile-per-hour gusts into the Outer Banks of North Carolina. As this low strengthens then into the weekend, do we see the system lift a little north, start to see some of those gusts extend into our mid-Atlantic areas? That, of course, is something we'll watch. Charleston, Myrtle Beach, even late Friday, still gusting to around 30 miles an hour. Jacksonville gusting to 25 miles an hour. But again, a closer look at what we could see into the weekend. I want to go back. Actually, the European model showed that a little farther to the south. So we move through this wind gust forecast getting into a Thursday. I showed you Friday will be the big day when it comes to the winds really picking up for everybody. Here again, the European model forecast showing some of those strongest of winds off the coast of Florida up to the Outer Banks. We look at the GFS, this one a little farther south with areas around Wilmington to Jacksonville, also a little farther to the east. Could it keep the core of those strongest winds farther off the coast? And of course, just an overall slightly weaker system means we don't see as much of those strongest of winds. Dr. Knabb.
Well, Alex, let's go.
Theme of the season. We've also been talking about a very soggy Florida, especially South Florida, Miami. You've had your fair share of rain this month, and we've got more on the way, or within the last month, more rain coming. It's going to be especially drenching across sections of South Florida here. Looking at the rest of the week's forecast, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all feature thunderstorms. I think the best chance of coverage, highest rainfall chances, those are Wednesday and Thursday. But even Friday, still scattered rain. So you very likely could get one of those thunderstorms that'll bring you some heavy downpours. And notice temperatures in the mid and low 80s through the rest of the week. Expect a decent bit of cloud cover as well. Rip current forecast across sections of the east coast of Florida. It's high up and down the coast. We've also got that high rip current danger into sections of northeast South Carolina, up around the Wilmington area in North Carolina. Also, portions of the panhandle of Florida. So along the Gulf Coast, we've got high danger of rip currents. Unfortunately, rip currents do account for a lot of our deaths each year. Surf zone deaths here for 2025, 36 of the 80 deaths have come via rip currents. High surf and also a sneaker wave have caused issues, but by far it is the rip current danger. And these can be really scary when you find yourself in a rip current because you feel like you're being drawn out into the ocean, and really it's an unsettling feeling, understandably, for anybody. So best thing to do to protect yourself is to swim near lifeguards. Always assume rip currents are present. You can go up to the lifeguards and ask them. They're trained to help identify these areas, keep folks away from them. So if you've got questions, always feel free to ask. Now, if you are caught in a rip current, the best thing to do is to stay calm and just let it carry you away. I know it's an unsettling feeling to feel like the shoreline's getting smaller, but you will get released from the rip current. And unfortunately, so many times people try to fight against a rip current, and that's when they exhaust themselves and we see drowning deaths. But once you're out and that rip current releases you, just swim parallel to the shore. You might be far out, so wave down a lifeguard and they'll be able to come out and bring you back to shore as well. Sometimes you can just ride the waves back in as well. Now, winds, they're going to be gusty and onshore, so that will continue our rip current danger and, of course, the coastal flooding concerns. By Thursday afternoon, winds gusting 30 to 35 miles an hour in Jacksonville, 20 to 25 miles an hour for Vero Beach in Orlando, also up towards Savannah, Georgia. So the southeast coast will be pretty gusty. Parts of the mid-Atlantic could get gusty too into the weekend. Friday morning, now we've got gusts to 30 miles an hour at Jacksonville, 25 miles an hour at Savannah. Unless I'm saying the Detroit Lions. Like, you're doing it for
emphasize it, right?
Yeah, like
if
if
you're
you're
just saying the city, kind of in normal speak, it's drop the E, right?
Right,
Detroit.
but if I was like going there and I was really excited, and you're like, where are you going for the weekend? I'm like, Detroit, Michigan. Hey. So.
Okay, wow.
But otherwise,
You
I'd just
really
be like, Detroit. Yeah. I feel like you feel like the announcer for like sporting events when you go like, Detroit. That's how I do it. I mean, you folks from Detroit can tell me how they do it.
It reminds me of that was the commercial where the guy was on stage singing. He's like, "Love you, Detroit."
Yeah.
But he wasn't in Detroit. He was somewhere else. I don't remember. Anyway.
And Milwaukee's like, how dare you?
Anyway, lots to talk about here on Weather Unfiltered. Alex Wilson, Mike Bettis, Dr. Knapp's going to be with us here in just a sec. Got some issues along the coast.
Yes, yeah. We know how easily and vulnerable we are to flash flood events, especially when we see rainfall amounts like this. This is Thursday through Monday. Expected rainfall totals, plenty of 1 to 2 inch forecast totals. Some areas 2 to 3 inches. Some spots could even exceed 3 inches of rain. And so we know over those very dry desert landscapes, especially these areas where we have some terrain in play, that can lead to a significant flood risk. And already the Weather Prediction Center is highlighting this area as one with a good chance of seeing flash flood issues. Darker green would indicate a little better chance. So Flagstaff up into sections of southeastern Utah, southwest Colorado. So it is the Four Corners zone where we're going to be watching for the chance of flash flooding. You can see even southeastern California, we could be looking at some water problems. So anybody in green, fair game for some possible flash flooding. The darker green's just a little better chance. And that's because we're going to see a little bit more coverage, heavier totals as we get up towards the Flagstaff area. Again, southern sections of Utah, southwest Colorado. Rain arrives on for the end of the week, continues into the weekend. Places like Phoenix seeing rain showers to start the day on Saturday. And yet again, Weather Prediction Center highlighting areas Saturday into Sunday. So we're several days out, but we've got confidence that we're going to see these troubles due to all the rain in the forecast and just all the moisture that's forecast to be present too. So Tucson, Phoenix, Flagstaff, even up towards Telluride and Grand Junction, Saturday into early Sunday. These are going to be areas at risk for flash flooding concerns. Saturday morning, there's your area of rain, and notice it's pretty persistent all across the Four Corners. At times more scattered, at times more widespread. Sunday afternoon around lunchtime, Phoenix still could be getting some decent rain, and persistent rain continues into Monday across southern Arizona and New Mexico. So again, travel could be an issue, and we've got to think about recreation, hiking, biking in some of these areas that could be more vulnerable to the flash flooding in events like this, Mike.
Yeah, we've certainly seen flash flooding. You have Weather Unfiltered coming at you right now. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson, of course, here with our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. We've got a new system out in the Atlantic. We've got possibly a nor'easter on our hands for the weekend. And then we've got a Pacific system looking to bring rain to the southwest.
Well, when I think of many past Octobers, I think of all kinds of different powerful low-pressure systems right off the East Coast. I also think of a lot of East Pacific hurricanes that have turned into the continent. So October is often this way, where both of our coasts are getting hammered by big-time low-pressure systems of all kinds.
You'd say it's on trend.
It is.
For October. We've got rain coming from Priscilla, of course, across the eastern Pacific. You're looking at some of the rain potential across the desert southwest.
This could get really rough, right? If you're talking a forecast in the desert southwest at 3 to 5 inches, that could be catastrophic in some communities.
And there's going to be another named storm likely behind Priscilla that's contributing to this.
Then we've got the forecast along the east coast this weekend. May or may not be a storm with tropical characteristics, but what it will be is a storm that's a strengthening low pressure bringing onshore flow and causing all sorts of trouble on the coast.
As we know, October is part of hurricane season, but it also is kind of the beginning of a many-month potential nor'easter season. So you can get all types on the East Coast this time of year.
And the problem is there could be effects from Florida all the way to New England. So there are a lot of places here we need to pay attention.
And wind, rainfall-induced flooding, and coastal impacts that could rival bona fide storm surge. So it doesn't have to be a tropical storm to get the same effects.
Yeah, so outside that coast could be a really nasty weekend up and down the East Coast. More coastal concerns, more, beach erosion issues. We've got the king tide combination with the onshore flow, so we could see big issues. Coastal flooding defined as a temporary inundation of seawater over normally dry land. A lot of times we see that in these beachfront communities where, the streets are inundated, the areas where you're usually parking your car under the stilts, those areas inundated. So that's coastal flooding. It can result from tides, it can result from onshore winds, storm surge, or a combination. It's the frequency of a change. We've been talking about it a lot. I mean, even this year, we've seen so many homes into the Atlantic there in eastern North Carolina. Now, coastal flood advisories have been issued by the National Weather Service from parts of the Keys all the way up to Jacksonville. And then we've got coastal flood advisories into South Carolina, into North Carolina. And of course, we'll be watching sections of the mid-Atlantic and possibly the Northeast as well, depending on where this system sets up and shifts. Right now, we've got winds gusting 17 miles an hour in Tampa, offshore 22-mile-an-hour gusts at 2 buoys. Right now, no reports of gusts from Jacksonville down to Melbourne. Melbourne, though, dealing with a 15-mile-per-hour wind. Winds will pick up in terms of gustiness by Thursday, but especially Friday. So here's Thursday, 8 o'clock in the morning, 20-mile-an-hour gusts possible at Daytona Beach, 30-mile-an-hour gusts at Myrtle Beach, and then 40-mile-per-hour gusts at Hatteras. We up the ante on Friday. So by Friday morning, perhaps winds gusting as high as 50 miles an hour in Hatteras, back down to 35. You can see at 8 o'clock, but earlier in the morning, our forecast models having that peaking. A lot of areas in that 20 to 30 mile per hour range, up and down the Florida and Carolina coastline. By Friday evening, still dealing with the gusts. Do we shift that also up to the north? That's the question, right? We look at Saturday afternoon. Here's the European model forecast showing some of the strongest of winds from Jacksonville to the Outer Banks. And those 40 to 60 mile per hour winds getting closer to the coastline, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds extending as far west as the east side of the Atlanta metro area into the mountains of western North Carolina. Now, the GFS model has a weaker system, so you can see much less in those 40 to 60 mile an hour winds. We're just not going to have as powerful of a system. According to this run of the GFS, we could be looking at the 20 to 30 mile per hour winds more common along the coast. So still some disagreements between our forecast models. European forecast does have by Sunday now some of the strongest of winds staying there in the Outer Banks, but now we're looking at Virginia Beach, Ocean City, places like Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, Cape May, New Jersey, out onto Long Island. Some very strong wind gusts there. We look at the GFS, or I assume this is the GFS for, no, this is still the European. Again, some of those strongest of winds staying closer to the coastline. So that European model definitely gives us a stronger storm with more potent winds close to the coast. coast. So wave forecast also picking up, Dr. Nab, but really, unfortunately for these coastal areas, just another round of a beating there at the coastline.
Yeah, this could be the most
forecast for a lot of moisture, resulting in a lot of rain. We've got to talk about the risk of flooding here across parts of the desert Southwest, a region very, very vulnerable to these flash flood events, whether it's, canyons or the dry arroyos. Really, there's a lot of terrain that you may not think about. I think we think desert is flat, but not the case, especially here in the Four Corners region, where we're going to see some of our highest totals. A lot of 1 to 2 inch amounts, and this is between Thursday and Monday. Some areas will exceed 2 inches. Some areas could even exceed 3 inches of rainfall by the time all is said and done. So the Weather Prediction Center, they're already highlighting areas that they think are especially at risk into the coming days. Friday into early Saturday, it's going to be parts of Colorado, parts of Utah, and sections of Arizona, including the Flagstaff area, that hold a little better risk of seeing some of the flash flood concerns. Outside of that, areas in green all have an isolated risk of flash flooding. Here's the reason why. Friday evening, you can see widespread rain and thunderstorms given that influx of moisture across the region. So heavy rainfall rates, especially within those thunderstorms, can lead to some of these areas not just seeing water rises, but seeing rushing water through communities. We've seen this time and again throughout the past few months across the Southwest. Four Corners, again, the area to watch Saturday into early Sunday. The dark green zones, again, better chance zones for seeing flash flooding. Grand Junction, Telluride, Farmington, down to Tucson, Phoenix, Flagstaff. So a lot of eastern Arizona, western New Mexico in play. And you can see it is those areas where we see some of the steadiest and heaviest rain into Sunday afternoon, especially Sunday.